that second "and" was a typo, but I really like that you read it. My name's Emji Spero. Joel and I are on tour. This is our 5th reading. We started in DC, went to Raleigh, Atlanta, New Orleans, and here, and then we're going to keep going across through Texas, Tucson, and then back up through California. So if you have friends along the can, invite them to our next reading. I'm going to read tonight from Almost Any Shit Will Do, which is my first book, I'm assuming that I'm going to have more. So this project needs a little bit of context. In 2009, I lived in Olympia, Washington, up in the Pacific Northwest, and was involved in a series of protests where we would stop military vehicles from being shipped in and out of the port of Olympia. And during that time, or during one of those marches, I was thrown into the ground by the police and have had chronic pain ever since. And that all sort of got like dredged back up emotionally during Occupy, around the time when I was working on this book. So this works through that, there are sort of 2 threads running through this book. One was continuously sort of re-entering that moment of trauma and trying to write into it, and then having it slide away, and not really ever being able to fully approach it, but trying to do that sort of through somatic practices. And the other one is using found language from mycelial studies, so mushroom studies. I was living in the Northwest, and there's this root structure all throughout the Northwest that's underneath, like, I think like an inch, 3 inches? Sorry, it's been a while since 3 inches under the ground, and it's thousands of acres across. And it's sort of, each fruiting body is connected to all the others. So I was thinking through rhizomatic structures and ways that people move in the middle of marches, and trying to connect those two. I'm going to read from the traumatic parts today. Just so you know. And I'm going to briefly read the introduction before I start. We were circling it in the thick moment approaching. Something so fragile it could barely be whispered for the fear that our breathing would cause it to collapse. There was a search for a we, or the we, or this we, and we were seeking it in riot and in the swarm. Seeking the singular in the plural of it, seeking a tenuous we, a more porous I. A we that emerges in the movement between the one and the many. We were approaching in the aftermath of an autumn's global uprisings, tracing the lines leading back to a riot, back to a body thick with gravity against the ground. How it has already happened, and it is happening. In the evenings, we would wrap ourselves in blankets. These failing moments when we could no longer push our bodies back into the fray. Live streaming marches shot on phones with shaking hands. This is an attempt to make a map and not a tracing, but how to pull apart the threads, to map what could still be through a series of approaches. There is the swell of the crowd and the soft breathing of many bodies, an impression left beneath the surface of the skin. Something here is undefinable, something urgent, a tangled mass of breaking fibers. The movement for 1. We walk out of our home and into the street. 2, we are protesting something, or we have forgotten exactly what. No matter, there is always something to become riot over. We have met for many dragging hours and have decided that we no longer need to wait for it, The event, another murder of a black man by the police, another sending out of troops or tanks or drones, another oil spill. 3. We have already entered into a state of continuous warfare, punctuated with brief bursts of clarity, and the only response left is to throw ourselves over into a state of continuous riot. 4. We walk out of our home and into the street. The movement verb 1. To emerge or to leave or to gather or occur, to be overrun, to abound, team, fill with many. 2. To climb by gripping with arms and legs, to climb something in this manner. 3. Often to be made porous by our nearness to one another. There is a question of time, the moment looping. The movement verb 1. To gather the threads of ourselves in the thick moment rising. My fingertips leave a mark in the sap of your shoulders. And this, the forward push, at once one and then apart, encircling the edges of the dense mass, pressing into for a way back. And then again we, and then we are dispersed. 2. Our faces partially obscured or partially revealed. We have stepped into this moment, and for a moment, the years of labor, of disappointment, the ache of capital slips from our howling animal body. 3. To return to the rude sight of you, years after, the words fall full and open from your mouth. For a moment there you say, leaning back, I didn't feel any pain. 4. And it is this absence, the sudden weight of it, and all that it implies, that gasps me. The movement verb 1. No, like this you say, and you place my hand between my jeans and their rough wet fur. There, you say, I want to feel how you fuck yourself when you are alone. 2. And we are alone, and here is pressing. The movement for 1, to stutter. The moment reiterates itself through bodies with difference. As words repeated falter, the distance of your body from the body with the megatone, meaning lags. 2, to become diffuse, an echo that clings to the body in the hours between Twitter feeds. You begin repeating their urgency, repeating their words to amplify the urgency so that the others will hear the body's trailing voices. 3, to collapse this city's distance, collapsing neighborhoods, folding the flat plain. This is not working. The movement verb 1, to swell across the gridded landscape unsevered over intersecting freight or fault lines, our body extended over miles or thousands of arms holding up banners made bed sheets. 2, to be held up by the same struts that keep this oil-soaked freeway from collapsing. 3, we are sprawling. We do not see the struts, we are above them. Now eyes hard set to the horizon, now interrupted by a sudden nearness, a face passing too close, for a moment almost intimate. If you're interested in our books, they're over there. There's also books by other people that we've published. Some of the projects that we're forthcoming with, some projects that we have that are forthcoming. This December, we're going to be publishing Black Lavender Milk by Angel Dominguez. We're publishing a book called Usufruct by Rob Halpern and Tom Donovan in January. We're publishing a book called The Romance of Siam by Jairun Ravine in April. Also a book called Face Down by Brian Whitener and Disaster by Madison Davis and Oil and Candles by Gabriella Hanasage. That's our list for the next half of the year.